Hello, everyone. Welcome to the OCBC and Vista Memorial Day service. I hope you're staying safe and well. Memorial Service is an American holiday when we recall our loved ones who left before us. Those are your family members, friends, neighbors, and including many lives lost due to the coronavirus. The number is more than 3 million in the world and more than 500,000 in the United States. At this moment, we'd like to have a 1-minute silent meditation to honor and remember your loved ones. Let's have a meditation, 1 minute. Show, please. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you for joining the silent meditation. Now I'd like to chant a Sambujo and Jusege, and I give you the Japanese message, and Rev Turner will give you the English message for this Memorial Day service. Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda, it's Namanda. Namanda. みだ如来にゆどう上三へら無常釈迦如来にゆどう上三へら無常実法如来にゆどう上三へら仏戦無量寿経十世へ我聞調整願一心無常道志願不満足政府上昇学我を無量公無意大聖衆無才小民具政府上昇学我史上文の妙正長実法空教未正門政府上昇学利欲人少年上映修本用四愚無常道一生天人師人力縁大公不詳無才道少女三苦名交際集約難回避知恵言滅死根毛案閉塞小悪道通断全宗門高僧上満足異様老実法日月修十期天候恩不言一種解放像公正功徳法上王大修十説法四四苦供養一切仏無足修徳本元年心上満 得意三害用、女分無下知、通断未不詳、願学へ力、投資最小尊、志願若効果、大仙王感動、航空商店人、道内妙見、ナマンダブ、ナマンダブ、ナマンダブ、ナマンダブ、ナマンダブ、ナマンダブ。観に四不独、平等税祭、道恩、菩提心、往生、羅国。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ。Now I'd like to give a Japanese message. 皆様、ようこそ CBC、そしてビスタテンポの、メモリアルデイサービスにお参りいただきまして、誠にありがとうございます。この度、今年もですね、残念ながら墓地の方にはお参りできません。ですので、このようにターナー先生と一緒に、このメモリアルで、サービス法要をお届けしております。それではまずですね、この私の法要の法話のテーマをお読みいたします。合唱いたしましょう。人は去ってもその人の微笑みは去らない。人は去ってもその人の言葉は去らない。人は去ってもその人のぬくもりは去らない。人は去っても拝む手の中に帰ってくる。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。今日のこの法要は、今は亡き方々、先に旅立たれて、先立たれて、今は仏様になってらっしゃる方々をですね、思い出して忍んで、そのご仏縁に私たちが出会っていくというですね、大事な法要でございます。メモリアルデイにですね、お墓に参りますと、アメリカの場合はいわゆるたくさんのアメリカ国旗が立ってまして、この国のために命を落とされた方々を思い、そして忍ぶ大きな大事な祝日でもあるわけです。また、私たち浄土真宗ではですね、お寺に参りますと、倶会一処というふうにですね、今スクリーンでお見せしておりますようなお墓を目にすることがあると思います。で、この倶会一処というのはね、どういうことかと言いますと、お経様の仏説阿弥陀経 というお経がございます。このお経様に出てくる言葉なんですね。で、クエのクっていうのは一緒にとか共にという意味です。で、一緒っていうのは一つのところということで、ですから共に一緒に一つのところで会うというですね、意味になります。ね、ということは、同じ阿弥陀様のお浄土で、また共に合わせていただくという意味なのです。阿弥陀如来様は、この私を必ず浄土に行き生まれさせて、仏にさせると願われて、今、南無阿弥陀仏として私に働いてくださっております。私がお唱えするお念仏、南無阿弥陀仏は、我に任せよ、必ずあなたを救うというですね、阿弥陀様からのお呼び声なんですね。でそのお呼び声、その深い私に向けられた願いを、そのまま疑いなく聞かせていただいて、命が終わったらすぐに阿弥陀様の働きによってお浄土に参らせていただくのです。ですから、亡くなってお墓の下に眠るのではありません。お墓というのは亡き方のお骨を納めて亡き方を忍びつつ仏縁に合わせていただく大事な場所なのです。しかし私たちは亡くなって墓のような、地面の下にのようなですね、暗い世界に行くのではありません。ね、それよりも阿弥陀様の世界、これは限りない光の世界、知恵の世界であるお浄土に参らせていただくのです。そしてお浄土に眠りに行くのでもありません。お浄土で仏になるということは、阿弥陀様の願いを伝えて、後の人を導く活動体として働いていくということなんです。ね、それですから、浄土真宗の見教えというのは、限りない命をいただいていくということです。この世で私の命が終わって、それで全てが終わるというのではないわけです。その他に、その後にですね、私は阿弥陀様の国に仏として生まれていく。死んでいくのではないんですよ。仏様として、エターナルライフ、いわゆる永遠の命を頂戴して、仏様としてまた生かされていく。そして今度は阿弥陀様のお手伝いをさせていただく。そのお手伝いとは何かというと、この世に戻って、ね、いろいろ、迷い苦しんでいる方々、を、この阿弥陀様の教え、南無阿弥陀仏に導いていくという大事な仕事が待ってくるんですね。これがですね、浄土真宗の本当に素晴らしい見教えでございます。まあ、私のことながらですね、私はアメリカに来て、まあ、大体40年になります。ね、まあ、婚姻屋のごとしと申しますけれども、なんと早く月日が経ったものだというふうに思いますけれども、時々、ふっとですね、私の最後はアメリカの土地になるのかなと考えることもあります。そのことを思うときですね、いつもね、私は日本から異国の土地であったアメリカにね、移民された一世パイオニアの方々を思い出します。広島や山口、そして福岡、和歌山というたくさんの県からですね、 ハワイや西海岸、またカナダへ多くの方が移民されました。生まれ育って住み慣れた土地を離れて新しい生活を始めるには随分の勇気がいったことと思います。自分の父や母や親戚を故郷に置いて海外で生活する苦労は並大抵のものではなかったはずです。最後は日本に戻るべきか、あるいはアメリカにとどまるべきか、そう考えられた方もおられたと思います。日本で最後を迎えて日本の土になるか、このままアメリカにとどまってアメリカの土になるか、大きな選択であったろうと思います。日本とアメリカのお墓は別々の違うところでありましょうが、行く場所は同じなわけです。行く場所というのは何であるかというと、私たちみんな阿弥陀様のお助けによってお浄土で仏様になってまた一緒に会える世界が用意されているのです。これがクエ一緒という意味です。一世パイオニアの方々をどれだけ安堵させたかと想像いたします。たとえ何千マイルと離れていても、最後に行くところはお墓ではなくて、阿弥陀如来様の仏国土である、浄土であると教えていただくわけです。そうしたら、日本に置いてきた父や母や兄弟、親戚とも、いずれは同じ阿弥陀様の浄土で会えるんだ。これがですね、きっと一世パイオニアさんの心の中で安心になったことであろうと私は想像いたします。阿弥陀如来様の働きによるからこそですね、同じクエ一生のお浄土でまた懐かしい方々とも今度は仏と仏とのお出会いをさせていただいて、仏としての活動に加わらせていただくのです。これが浄土真宗の大事な教えでございます。今は亡き人々からご仏縁をいただいて、この私が手を合わせて南無阿弥陀仏をお唱えできる身と仕上げられたことに共に感謝いたしましょう。本日はメモリアルデイサービスのこの法要にようこそお参りでございました。最後にはじめにご紹介した詩を読んで私の日本語の法話とさせていただきます。人は去ってもその人の微笑みは去らない。人は去ってもその人の言葉は去らない。人は去ってもその人のぬくもりは去らない。人は去っても拝む手の中に帰ってくる。合唱。ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。ようこそのお参りでございました。Now, Rev Turner will give you an English Dharma message.
Hello, everyone. This is Rev Jon Turner. I'll be speaking in English for our Memorial Day special service on May 31st. I would first like to open my talk with Gassho. If you could place your palms together and join me. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu, Naman Butsu. So traditionally, in the United States, Memorial Day is a day to remember fallen soldiers, those who have passed away. And we do that in the Buddhist tradition. But one of the things I found remarkable about Buddhism in the United States is we tend to take traditional American holidays and we expand them or we generalize them into something that also is able to express Buddhist ideals and values. So Thanksgiving becomes a time of great gratitude. Christmas is a time of dana and selfless giving. And I think Memorial Day for Buddhists is a time to memorialize not only soldiers, but family members and all who've passed away before us. And this memorial tradition in Buddhism dates all the way back to the time of the Buddha in India. I wanted to share a couple text quotes with you today. The tradition in Asia was to hold a service every 7 days in the 49 days following the death of a loved one, with additional services at the 100th day and after 1 year. And then highlighted, these time intervals have no specific meaning in Shin Buddhism. However, many families choose to hold memorials at the 49th day and at the 1 year to affirm the ongoing connection with the deceased and to work through the grieving process. So we are going to look at some more dates and numbers, and these come from China. They're kind of inherited through Chinese Buddhism into Japan and then on to the United States. China has a deep cultural tradition of numerology where numbers have special meaning or power. And it may be more so in China than the United States, but we don't like the number 13. 7 is lucky. When I do a PowerPoint slides, I really don't like to have a prime number of slides. It's not that it's bad luck or I think anything bad's going to happen. It just bugs me and I don't like it. So I either combine 2 slides or I add another slide to get off of 11 and on to 12 or back to 10. So Asian tradition through China also called for services at 2 years, 6, 12, 16, 24, 32, 49, and 99 years after the date of the death of the loved one. But in the ancient way of counting, these were the 3rd, 7th, 13th, 17th, 25th, 33rd, and 50th, and 100th cycle memorials. So this is a little bit confusing. We have the 1st year memorial after 1 year, but then we have the 3rd year memorial after 2 years because it's the beginning of the 3rd cycle. And the same with the 7th. It's not the 7th year, it's after 6 years because it's the beginning of the 7th year cycle of mourning. So as a minister, I think I just understand this now. I never could understand why the 3rd year memorial seemed to come 1 year after the 1st year memorial. And again, these time intervals are culturally derived and are not specific to Shin Buddhism. So we have these predetermined, scheduled memorials for families to meet in a public way to deal with their grief and to deal with their sorrow and perhaps, hopefully, turn it into gratitude and meaning that they find in the relationships that they had with their loved ones. So this communal expression of grief is very important, and I don't think it's well appreciated in the United States. One example that Americans tend to not understand is every once in a while you'll see a high-ranking, very powerful Japanese CEO apologize for a corporate action and sometimes cry. And in America, our CEOs would never do that. They want to be strong and they want to be leaders. But this is a ritualized grief. It's a communal grief. The CEO is like a surrogate for all the employees. And when he's able to express his grief, all the employees are part of that expression. So this idea of a communal ritual expression of grief and sorrow is cathartic to the group. And he's a placeholder or a stand-in for every one of his employees, expressing something that they would like to express, but they don't have the audience or the media attention to be able to do that. So this expression is very cathartic, both for the victims and for the members of the corporation. So right now, I thought, what would we most like to memorialize this year? And I thought of COVID. We're coming out of the pandemic. We're all very excited. I think we want to get back to normal. And even I do this. I kind of forget all the pain and suffering and all the people that died in hospital rooms alone over the last 425 days. This is an image I found from Irvine, remembering the victims of COVID-19. So Memorial Day gives us an opportunity, before we rush headlong into the future and our new normal, to maybe take a moment and reflect and deal with our grief and not ignore it or bury it, and to embrace it in a healthy way. So I went on the internet, here it says May 2nd, and I was trying to find out how many people actually died from COVID. And it's a very difficult number to find. Reporting is not accurate. You have to gather data from all over the world. And I think a lot of times in the United States, we focus on how many people died in America. It might be 650. It might be 750,000. I saw the other day that it might be as high as 900,000. We could reach 1 million. We really don't know, because the death reporting is usually undercounted. There's many people who have passed away that maybe have not been formally diagnosed as COVID is the cause of death. So rather than looking only at the United States, I wanted to take a look at the world, of the family of humanity. And it says here that as of May 2nd, at least what has been reported, which is undercounted, over 3 million people have died so far from the coronavirus outbreak. So, this is almost, 3.5 million people. And then, not everyone died, but everybody suffered. There's long haulers who are still feeling the effects of COVID months and months and months after they've been infected. And it says here, there are currently over 150 million confirmed cases in over 220 countries and territories. So these are just the confirmed cases. It could be as high as 200 million. And the fatality rate is still being assessed. So I think 5-10 years from now, on PBS Frontline or on 60 Minutes, we'll be able to look back and maybe better understand what happened over the past year. We know it's bad. I have a feeling it's worse than we know. And it's time to acknowledge that and deal with it, and not ignore it before moving on. Because grief can cause a lot of problems if it's buried. So I went on the internet and I looked for examples of memorials in the United States. We've had several recently after the Biden administration came into office. This is one with yellow flags, each one representing a death in the United States. A very somber, quiet memorial. Here's another one using white flags. In Buddhism, white represents death. It's the color of the flowers that fell when the Buddha passed away. So in the Buddhist tradition, we don't use black so much as a mourning color. We use white. We use white flowers at funerals. And so, again, 500,000, 650,000 flags spread out over an empty field. And then this one I always find touching. It's kind of ironic, but there are 500 chairs here. Back when we only had 500,000 dead in the United States. So, we have trouble keeping up the metaphor. We put out 500 chairs, and a month later, that's not enough. But each chair has a burning candle on it, representing an empty chair of somebody who's no longer with us. And this reminded me a little bit of the Oklahoma City memorial with the empty chairs of the children and adults who passed away. I think it was the Murrah building bombing. And then I thought this was quite moving. This is the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., of course, across the mall, with burning candles, symbolically representing all of those who have passed away in silence. And this area is very meaningful at night. I saw this during the day, and it didn't really strike me. But you go at night, and you see the Washington Memorial, you see Martin Luther King Memorial, you see the Memorial for Vietnam and Korea, and it's really a whole nother world at night. It's quiet, it's dark, and it's just you and your thoughts. And then across from the Washington Memorial is you have the Capitol building, and you have the White House. And so here is another wonderful image of that memorial service. And I wanted to mention that President Joe Biden has experienced a lot of loss in his life. In the early 70s, his family got in a terrible car accident. His first wife and his only daughter passed away in the accident. Bo and Hunter were both injured. I think Hunter had a broken leg and had to go to the hospital, and Bo had a head injury, a concussion, a skull fracture. And it almost broke Joe Biden. He remarried Jill. He was able to have another daughter. But in 2015, his son Bo died of brain cancer. So he's had to deal with a lot of death and dying and grief in his lifetime. And he's had to overcome it, and he's come to understand it. And I think he makes him a good spokesman, almost like the Japanese CEOs apologizing in Japan. He's able to be a conduit to a national feeling of guilt. He understands it, he can identify with it, and he can help give advice. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Joe Biden. He uses it a lot during COVID. He says, "There will come a day, I promise you, when the thought of your son or daughter or your wife or your husband brings a smile to your lips before it brings a tear to your eye. It will happen. My prayer for you is that day will come sooner rather than later." Joe Biden. So this is somebody who is a grief leader. He's been there, and he helps us on our journey. And so there was an article on October 21st, 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, talking about grief leadership and how that is exactly what Americans are missing right now. I don't think in our culture we have the tools to deal with grief. And I think this is something that Buddhism could really help most Americans. And it says here that grief leaders do three key things. They facilitate and promote aid and resources. They maintain transparent communication, and they endeavor to truly understand and empathize with the people that are grieving. It also goes on to say that the ability to assuage grief is a defining leadership quality because leadership involves holding a collective experience and modeling constructive behavior. And then it goes on to say, hearing someone share their grief publicly can bring people together. It can remind us that we are not alone and that even the most powerful people on the national stage have been touched by grief and can understand the parts of what we are experiencing. And so this is what we try to do in the Buddhist tradition. Shotsuki Hoyo, a monthly public memorial. You may feel like you're a victim and you might be unique in that no one's had a loss as profound as yours. And it feels that way. But when you come to Shotsuki, you see everybody in the Sangha who has lost a family member, during that month of your month. And you realize it's part of life. You're not alone. You can identify with others. And just the act of being in a group makes you feel connected, and it helps ease the pain. And it says here, without public memorials for people we've lost, seeing a leader grief on a national stage can be especially powerful. And it only validates our collective grief, but it also helps us move through the pain and get to the other side. Most people want a leader that gives them hope for better days ahead. That's part of grief leadership too. We want someone who reminds us that we can get through the hard things and that we all share the weight of it together. In Buddhism especially, we want to have realistic hope. And you don't have to be the President of the United States or a presidential candidate to be a grief leader. Examples are all around us. Think of family members who go above and beyond to check in on siblings, cousins, and niece and nephews after the family matriarch dies. Think of a work manager who, amid rumors of a pending layoff, tries to put staff at ease by sharing everything they can about the situation. Anyone can be a grief leader. All you need is the courage to share your story and the strength to hold a piece of someone else's grief when they share their story in return. Just being able to speak about grief is itself cathartic. You don't have to offer a solution to someone. You just have to be there, validate their experience, and hear what they're saying. Grief leadership at its base is fairly simple. It's saying, I'm here for you, and then really being there with genuine empathy and action. Whether you're the leader of a country or just someone checking in on a grieving friend, when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it gives others permission to be vulnerable as well. That alone can be very powerful. So I wanted to talk about suffering in Buddhism. When I first started to practice Buddhism, I kind of thought of suffering in general. I didn't understand really if I had a broken arm or a black eye or a stomach ache, I didn't see how Buddhism could help me with that. And so I was a little bit confused. But luckily in Buddhism, we always enumerate things. We always list things to make it clear what we're talking about. So there's three kinds of suffering in Buddhism. There is physical discomfort, having a stomach ache, having a black eye. And then next is grief because of the loss of a loved one. And then the one the Buddha focuses on, and when we talk about suffering in Buddhism, we're focusing on number 3. It's a sense of dissatisfaction or frustration or dis-ease with life itself. And so if you have broken your arm and you wonder, why me? Why has life been so cruel to me? Why do bad things only ever happen to me? Or with grief, if you are mad at life, that it's unfair, that how could this happen to me? And you feel like a victim, then that's how I think number 3 can help. It stops us from being frustrated with life itself. It's not your fault if you broke your arm. Things happen. You were not irresponsible. You weren't silly. And grief is very, very difficult without getting angry at life. And so I think what Buddhism helps us do is focus on the grief and not expand it out into life itself, and to stay focused on why we hurt through self-reflection and to realize what our triggers are. And the Buddha helps us deal with that by focusing on the type of frustration and suffering and dis-ease that we feel with life itself. We don't want that to creep in to our dealing with grief or mending from a broken arm. And so the Buddha often reminded his disciples that it's not the physical that is lost. We focus on that. We focus on the physical. And so with the physical, we don't lose the relationship. So I think the Buddha is making a distinction between the physical and the affective or the emotional. So I think when someone dies, we think it's all gone. And the Buddha is saying that's not true. It's not all gone. The physical being is gone, but the relationship lives on. The effects that that person had on your life, your memories, the way you've been influenced by them, that never dies. So in Buddhism, physical objects are not permanent, but relationships are permanent. The relationship you've had with your loved ones is something you carry with you for the rest of your life. And I've been watching Grey's Anatomy recently, and Meredith Grey has COVID, and she's on a beach, and it's some kind of non-denominational purgatory. It's kind of a dreamscape. And if she goes too far down the beach, she will die. But there's a bridge back to her body to be with her family. And her friends who passed away meet her on the beach. And they explain to her that they've never really been gone. They're only gone if you think they're only the body. You only grieve when you think they're gone. And they said, we've never been gone. We're in your heart, we're in your body, and we're in your blood. And so in that sense, they never leave. So when the Buddha was passing away at 80 years old, his disciples were very concerned. They were losing their teacher, and they thought that it was an end. And he said to them, no, I'm not my body. I am my teachings. I am my relationships. The effect I've had on the world never dies. And that will always be with you, even after my physical body passes. So he says, in quote, my disciples, the last moment has come, but do not forget that death is but the vanishing of a body. The body was born from parents and was nourished by food. So sickness and death is unavoidable. But the true Buddha is not a human body. It is the Dharma. A human body must vanish, but the Dharma will exist forever. He who sees my body only is not the one who truly sees me. He who accepts my teachings is the one who truly sees me. So I would say this is true for all of us. If we accept the teachings of our mothers and our fathers and our sisters and our brothers, and we don't confuse that with the physical body, then in effect they never leave us. They are always with us. And grief moves from a tear from our eye to a smile on our lips. If you could please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much for listening to my Dharma talk for Memorial Day. I have one announcement. We have a OCBC Project Kokoro online craft boutique. Here is the link. Check out the website for updates. There are new items added weekly, and proceeds will go towards Obon. So I want to thank you very much. Please have a enjoyable but also meaningful Memorial Day. Thank you very much.